Today we're going to be reading The Wednesday Wars. This story is by Gary D. Schmidt. We're going to just read a little bit about Holling Hood. He's the main character. Mr. Hood, she called from her desk as the school clock clicked to noon. I have a quick job for you. Everyone else, enjoy your recess. Mr. Hood, said Miss Baker, there are some pastries that Miss Biggio had spent the morning baking for me that need to be brought up to the room. Would you go down to the kitchen and bring them here? And do not start any rumors. These are not for the class. Is that all? I said. Don't look so suspicious, she said. Suspicion is an unbecoming passion. I took my unbecoming passion and left to find Mrs. Biggio. This didn't seem like it would take too long, even though the 7th grade classrooms were on the 3rd floor, and the kitchen was on the 1st floor, at the very end of the hallway, probably so that the wind could blow the fumes away. Sometimes that worked, and sometimes it didn't. When it didn't, the halls filled up with the scent of hamburgers and pepper surprise, a scent that lingered like the smell of a dead animal caught underneath the floorboards. I think that Miss Biggio couldn't smell the scents, either because she wore a cotton mask over her face all the time, or because she had worked in the kitchen of Camillo Junior High for so long that she could no longer smell. But I didn't have a mask and I could smell, so when I reached the kitchen, I got ready to take a deep breath before I walked in. But then I realized I didn't need to. There were no fumes. There was only the delicious, extravagant, warm, tasty scent of buttery baking crust and of vanilla cream and of powdered sugar still drifting in the heated air. And stretched out on the long tables, far from whatever surprise was being fed to Camillo Junior High for lunch that day, were a dozen trays of cream puffs. Brown, light, perfect cream puffs. Miss Baker send you, said Miss Biggio. I nodded. You can start with that one, she said, pointing. Now would be a good time to start, said Miss Biggio, and don't drop any. I won't drop any, I thought, and you're very welcome. I picked up a tray in each hand. One tray at a time, said Miss Biggio. I looked at her. That will take me 12 trips to the 3rd floor, I said. So Mr. Samowitz is teaching you some arithmetic after all. Don't drop any. It took me the rest of lunch recess to carry the trays, one at a time, up to the classroom. Miss Baker smiled sweetly as I brought each one in. Place them on the shelf by the windows. The cool air will keep them from getting soggy. I thought of my father and the future of Hood and Associates. I did not complain, even when Miss Baker asked me to open the windows a little wider, and I had to move all the trays one at a time so that I could reach over the shelf and jerk all the windows open a little wider. I did not complain. Thank you, said Miss Baker, as the school clock clicked to 12:30 and the classroom began to fill, and Danny Huffer came to punch me on the shoulder because he thought the cream puffs might be for us, which they weren't. Now let me tell you, it is hard to care much about set theory when there are 12 trays of brown, light, perfect cream puffs cooling deliciously on a shelf back in your own classroom. But when we came back in after set theory, the cream puffs were still there, cooling in the circulating air coming in beneath the clean lower windows. But Miss Baker acted like the cream puffs weren't there at all, and I suppose that in the end it didn't really matter that they were there. They may as well have been over with the wives of Vietnam soldiers at St. Albert's already for all the chance we had of getting one. When 1:45 came, half the class left, and Danny Huffer whispered, if she gives you a cream puff after we leave, I'm gonna hurt you. When 1:55 came and the other half of the class left, Mary Lee whispered, if she gives you one after we leave, I'm going to do a number 408 to you. But I knew I was saved. It was just as likely that President Lyndon B. Johnson himself would walk into the classroom as Miss Baker would give me a cream puff. Actually, though, someone did come to the door after everyone had left. It wasn't President Johnson. It was a 5th grader from Camillo Elementary. He was carrying a box. I got them all, Charles said. Thank you. You may put them here on the desk. Charles put the box on Miss Baker's desk. He looked once at me, kind of sadly, I thought, then left, brushing his hands off. Chalk dust fell from them. Mr. Hood, said Miss Baker, recent events have led the junior high school teachers to conclude that we need to be keeping our chalkboard erasers much cleaner. So I asked Charles to gather them from the classrooms and bring them here each Wednesday. Would you take care of them, please? If there was a time to complain, this was it. I walked over and looked into the box. There must have been 30 erasers in there, white with 6 weeks worth of chalk. This was really the time to complain. I picked up the box of erasers. I'll be in the ditto room, said Miss Baker. Just swell, I thought. But then Miss Baker said something that made the world spin backward. If we both finish in time, you may have one of the cream puffs. I think I must have gone white. You needn't look so shocked, she said. But I was shocked. She had offered the hope of a cream puff, a brown, light, perfect cream puff. It was as if Miss Baker had suddenly become not Miss Baker. It was like I had another vision, only this one was real. So before the vision could fade, I carried the box of erasers down the hall, down 2 flights of steps, and outside. The day was still a perfect blue October day, as if it had been waiting for me since I'd missed it at lunch recess. It smelled of baseball and the last cut of grass and leaves drying out but still holding on, and for a while I could smell all of it. But the cloud of white chalk that comes out of 30 erasers is pretty impressive, let me tell you. I pounded and pounded them against the wall, and the chalk dust that didn't get into my lungs flew and twisted with the breeze that curled against the first floor classrooms, coating all the windows. The teachers had learned to close them on Wednesday afternoons now. A cream puff. At the end of a long school day, brown, light, and perfect, and no one, not Danny Hupford, not Mara Lee, no one needed to know. The cloud of chalk dust wafted higher. It flew up to the second floor windows, all closed. Maybe Miss Baker would give me 2. After all, there were 12 trays of the things, maybe 2. The chalk dust wafted with the swirling breeze past the second floor windows and then up to the third floor windows. Maybe she would give me a 3rd cream puff to take home. The chalk dust gathered by the 7th grade windows. Windows someone had left open so that air could circulate. Miss Baker's windows, open next to the brown light, perfect cream puff so that they wouldn't get soggy. I ran up desperately, lugging the box of 30 erasers, 23 of which had sent their chalk dust toward Miss Baker's windows, but I was too late. The cloud of chalk dust had drifted in, and then gravity had taken over. The chalk had fallen gently upon each one of the cream puffs. They looked like Miss Biggio had spread an extra thick layer of powdered sugar on top. All right, I'm going to stop right there. What would you do if you had ruined 12 trays of the best dessert?